Hello everyone, today I'm going to be talking about setting rules and expectations for children and following up with boundaries and why this is important. A lot of you guys reach out to me and you tell me a lot of the troubles that you're having at home with your children and the discipline, and so I decided to go ahead and make this video as part of my series that I have going on with manners, etiquette, and behavior. And this is a really important topic because one of the main reasons why children misbehave is because they don't have clear expectations, boundaries, and consequences at home. That is one of the main reasons why children misbehave. So they basically run their households, they're unruly, they're sort of selfish and self-centered in that they do what they want, whenever they want, no matter who they hurt or who's in their way. And we don't want to raise kids like that because we have to remember that we are raising the next generation and we want good citizens that are kind, that are respectful. And this is where it starts. It starts at home and it starts with the little kids. And so let's first start off with setting rules in your home. And so why is this important? Well, children need to understand that there are rules and expectations and boundaries, and that they cannot just do whatever they want, whenever they want, and regardless of how others feel. Just as like when you go to the beach or to the lake, there is a sectioned out area where you can't go past that area for your own safety. And that is what we want to do in our home. We want to have clear boundaries that children should not be crossing. And so one of the first things that you can do is get a board. I have here a little board that I use, and I'm going to link this one below in the description box, but you can get a regular poster board and write down some rules. So what you want to do is you want to have a family meeting with your family and then think about the things that bring the most trouble in your home. What are the things that you're constantly fighting about or stressing about or have anguish about? And then write rules around those. You don't want to go past like 7 or 8 rules because you don't want to overwhelm the children. You want to have just the main things that you want to focus on that you know that would bring more peace and order to your home. So let me give you some of the examples that I have here. No hitting or hurting. So this is a big one. If you have siblings, children, hurting each other, hitting each other, kicking each other, whatever it is, that's a big one in my house. It doesn't happen very often, but I have it up here because when it does happen, I apply consequence right away. This is something that we do not allow here. We don't let this become into a habit at all. The next one that we have here is do not get up while eating and pick up your plate and area after eating. So this is a big one. You know, before I had these rules in order, my children would just, and I still have some children that do this, while we're eating, would get up, run around with their food, drop things on the floor, and then leave their plates on the table when they were done eating. And this is something that I really wanted to ingrain in my children, and so I have this as a rule here. They are not allowed to get up while we are eating. While they're eating breakfast, lunch, or dinner, they need to sit down until they are done eating in their seats. When they are done eating, they have to pick up their plates and put it into the dishwasher or into the sink if they cannot do it. My older kids rinse their plates off and put them in the dishwasher right away. And so you want to have these habits ingrained in children because it helps the family unit when everyone works together to keep the house clean. It is terrible when dinner's done and everyone just leaves their plates on the table and just goes off and mom has to clean up after everyone. It's just not thoughtful, it's not respectful, and we don't want to teach our children this. So this is a big one. I do not allow my children to just get up and leave their plates there when they're done with dinner or with any breakfast, lunch, or dinner. The next rule is do not take what does not belong to you without permission. That's another big one where children take things that don't belong to them and it becomes a battle between siblings. So there are things that children can have that are common things, like community things, like that everyone can use. But then there are things that are personal items that you should not be taking from your sibling, from your parents. And that is what we were talking about. Personal items should be asked You should ask permission before taking something that doesn't belong to you from the other person. It's respectful and it's thoughtful. Another one that we have here is do not do what bothers another person. And so I have this here because a lot of times my children come up to me and complain, oh, so-and-so is singing really loud, or so-and-so is doing this and it's bothering me. And so we want to be aware of what we're doing and if that is disturbing another person. And that is a rule here. So if you're doing something that is disturbing another person, you need to stop. And that's what we have here. Another one is make your bed daily and have your room clean. That's a big one. My children need to have their beds made before they can come down for breakfast. In fact, we will not serve them their breakfast until their bed is made. And we want them to have their rooms clean. And sometimes it's, you have clothes on the floor. At least I want all that clothes in a basket until you can get to it. I don't want things all over the floor in your room. We have baskets. We have ways of managing clutter. Your bed needs to be done every day, and everything needs to be off the floor and the counters. So that's the way we roll around here. We want the kids' rooms clean. It creates a habit of order and cleanliness that they're going to need in adulthood. The next one we have here is do not yell or run inside the house. We want indoor voices. We have a lot of kids, and maybe you just have one kid or two kids and it's not a big deal. But for us to have kids yelling inside the house and running around is very disturbing to everyone's peace. And so we do not allow that here. If you want to run, you go outside. If you want to yell, you go outside. You could use your indoor voice inside when you're inside. The last one that we have here is pick up after playing with toys or doing an activity. That's a big one because, if you're done, playing with, let's say, Legos, don't leave all your Legos on the floor. If you're done with whatever it is you're doing, it needs to be picked up and put away. These are habits that are ingrained in children. So now, once you have established your rules, and your rules may look different than mine, you may have other issues, you may have teenagers, you may have younger children. Whatever your rules that you have determined that these are the most important ones, then you want to follow up with consequences for children. And what I like to do is that I like to tie the consequence to the action for the most part if I can. So for example, if a child is throwing blocks, the blocks go away. If the child is riding their bike, let's say in the street, and I said that that's not where you ride your bike, then your bike goes away. If, let's say, the kids, they do a lot of sculpting, and so they use a lot of clays and things like that, and a lot of tools for sculpting. If they're done with sculpting and they just leave everything on top of the table and clay all over the floor, then you know what? Clay is going to go away for a few days. And so I try to tie the consequence directly with what the action that has been done, because it's just helpful that way, and it helps them remember, like, oh yes, I should not be doing that. But if there's an action that I can't find a relatable consequence to, then I will use taking away privileges, such as playing outside. That's huge for my kids. They play hours and hours outside with the neighbors and the kids on the block. So if I take their play away for that afternoon, that's a big deal. And I think this year I've only had to do that once, and it was a really big thing for whoever I applied that consequence to. They do not like that. So another big one is screen time, and that's another consequence that we use, taking away screen time. In the weekend, the kids get to have some screen time, and they get to watch movies Fridays and Saturdays with the family. We love watching movies. But, that's something that can be taken away if they are breaking some of the rules that we have here, or if they've done something that they shouldn't be doing. Another thing that we use is time out and taking a break, taking a pause, whatever you want to call it. I call it, we're taking a pause right now. You need a pause. And this is something that works. I know a lot of people say, oh, don't do time out, don't do the pause. But when you have younger kids, just pulling them away from what they're doing and having them take a seat just to reflect on what they're doing sends a message to them, and it deters their bad behavior. If you have an older child, that child can be sent to their room. That child can be sent to an area in your house where you have them sit down and think about what they're doing. So I will come back after their pause, and I will talk to them, and I will pray with them, ask the Lord to help them with whatever they're battling with. We'll talk about what are the things that you can do better next time. So I do definitely think timeouts, pauses work when children need to be pulled out from what they're doing. Other consequences. Let's say a child is misbehaving at a park. I will tell a child, listen, you cannot do that here, whatever it is they're doing. If you continue doing that, we're going to go home. But the difference is that they're not empty threats. I will actually pack up the van and we're out of the park, we're out of the play date. And my kids know that I will follow up with what I say. It's very important that you don't have empty threats with children, that you follow up, because that's when they know that you mean what you say and they start respecting your word and respecting you. So it's really important. I made a video on how to get children to listen to you and this whole concept. And I talk more in depth about it. I'll link it below in the description box. But it's very important that whatever it is, the consequence that you give that child, it's a reasonable consequence. Don't ground children for a whole week. Don't take away their cell phones for a whole month. Those things are harsh, and what that's going to do is going to cause resentment in the child, and it's going to break relationship. You never want to sacrifice relationship over results. That's something that I always talk about. So I am not an advocate for hitting, for yelling, for harsh punishments. I believe that you can apply reasonable consequences and still be able to mold your children. So now let's talk about expectations when you go out. So it's really important that when you go out to someone's house, when you go out to a birthday party, when you go out to a mall, wherever it is, children know before you leave the home what is expected of them. I think a lot of people, they're very disappointed with how their children behave, and they're often even embarrassed by their children's behavior because they don't have these clear expectations of what is expected of them in these places. Now also keep in mind that the way a child behaves at home is going to pass on to the outside. So it starts at home. But if we're going out to someone's house, I let my children know we are not going into someone's bedroom. We're going to wait until we are asked to enter. We're not opening up anyone's refrigerator. We are not touching anyone's personal things and things like that, because it is really terrible. I've had people come to my house and their children are going inside of bedrooms, jumping on top of beds, breaking things, touching things they shouldn't be touching. And it's really bad. It's sad, because I really wouldn't even want to have that family back to my home when children behave that way. So it's really important to really talk to children what is expected when they go visit someone's house. And these are things that are taught to children. Another thing is when you go to a park or a playground, an indoor playground has rules, right? So you tell the children, listen, these are the rules in this playground, in this indoor play space. This is what is expected of you. And when I say it's time to go, it's time to go. And I want you to put your shoes on right away and let's head out. I usually give children like a 5 minutes heads up. We're leaving in 5 minutes. And so that they start getting ready. But it's really important that you even tell them that before you even get there. Like when I tell you that it's time to go, it's time to go. And so when you start preparing children like this, before you go to a store, for example, we're going to go to the store today, but today I'm going to go in there just for bread and milk. We're not going into the toy aisle. We're not going to buy toys. We're just going into for milk and for bread, and then we're going to leave. And so you prepare children of what you're going to be doing at that place. A lot of times children are the ones that run their families, run their homes, run the experience, and it's very bad for parents. They go into a store and the child immediately wants to go to the toy aisle and they take over the whole experience. And children should not be the leaders of your home. This is where the problem comes in. Children are given too much autonomy. A child is meant to be led. They are not less than us, but they are meant to be led. In order for that child to be a good leader when they're an adult, they need to learn how to be led as a child. They need to learn how to follow instructions. And when they go to college, when they go to work, they're going to need to know how to be led, how to follow instructions, how to respect boundaries. This is something that is established in childhood. And I really believe that you need to establish the idea in your home that you are the leader and they need to respect you and follow your rules in your home that you have. Alright, so to wrap up the video, make sure that you have rules that you set for your children. Very, very important. You're obviously not going to be able to write down every single rule. You want to focus on the main ones. But on a daily basis, when you see a child doing something they shouldn't be doing, call them out and have them do it the right way. Because if you don't, if you keep letting things slip by, then those things become habits in children. The way they respond to you, the way they talk to you. If they ask things in the wrong way, you tell them, can you ask me in a different way? Let's practice. And you have them ask you again. If you see them mistreat a sibling, have them practice doing it the right way. Don't let things slip by. Don't let the kids yell, misbehave, and just create these habits on a daily basis. Have your consequences and your boundaries. It's really important that you follow up, and that you might have rules, and these rules might be just become art on your wall. You need to follow up and give them consequences. You don't need to yell. You don't need to hit. You don't need to humiliate your children, treat them bad. You don't need to do any of that. Okay? And yes, that may give you temporary results, but that's going to break the relationship between you and your child, and that's something that you never want to do. So let the consequences do the yelling. Let the consequences be what molds your children. Don't feel bad that they are going through this consequence right now. That's okay. They're going to learn from these consequences. If you have teenagers, the consequences may look a little bit more different, and you may need to apply maybe taking a cell phone away, taking the car keys away, maybe not going out that night or whatever it is, or going to that event as a consequence. Consequences are going to look different depending on the age of your children, but consequences work and they will mold your children. So come along with me on this series. If you haven't already subscribe to my channel. I will be talking about some resources for character development next in the next videos coming up. I'm going to share with you books and resources that I use to help mold my children's character. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like this, give me a thumbs up, because then I'll know that you want to see more like this. Until the next time, bye-bye.